Hey everyone, welcome back to Shop Life. In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace your engine mount on an E46 XI. So the XI is a little bit different than rear-wheel drive models because they do have the half shafts in the front, and you also have the subframe, and everything is a little bit different in the XI models. So the process is going to be a little bit different. For the most part, it's very similar, so you can follow this guide for rear-wheel drive models as well. Just the mounts will be a little different as well. So let me go and show you guys the parts first. So the main difference between the XI and rear-wheel drive models is the right side mount, so passenger side mount. This is the passenger side mount on the XI. This would be the passenger side mount on a normal rear-wheel drive. And this is also the same mount on the driver's side for both models. So the tools you're going to need a simple socket set. Main socket you're going to be using is a 16. You want a deep and you want a narrow 16. And then you're also going to need a couple of socket wrenches. And one of these socket wrenches is very helpful. You can get these at Harbor Freight. It's got the little ratchet right here and the swivel on the top. So this will help out a lot in getting the driver's side engine mount bolt loose. So let's begin by looking at the car. Alright, so this is the right side of the car, passenger side. Here is the passenger side mount. You're also going to need an external Torx 10 socket. This is the E10 bolts. There's two of them holding the passenger side mount in. One on the inside of the subframe and one on the outside. And then one on the outside. So there's also a 16mm nut on the top of the mount. On the top of the mount, on top of this arm right here. And that's what actually secures the whole engine mount arm to the mount. So that's the passenger side. On the driver's side, you only have one 16mm nut that holds the mount from the bottom. Then you have one 16mm nut on the top that goes through the engine mount arm right here. So let me go and show you guys how to remove them, the best way to do it. So there's a couple ways you can do this in terms of lifting the engine off of the mounts. You don't have to have a lift. Almost all the DIYs I do, you don't have to have a lift. Obviously, having a lift makes it easier. What I'm going to be using is this pull jack to hold the engine up, and I'm just jacking it up by the oil pan. You can also use an engine support bar. You can use a cherry picker, and there's a little hook on the top and the front of the engine that you can just lift it up by there. Or if you're doing your oil pan gasket or something like that, you're going to have something up there anyways, and you're going to be dropping the whole subframe. So for us, we're just going to use this pull jack to jack it up once we have all the bolts loosened. Alright, so we're going to use this long swivel socket extension with a short 16mm. We're going to go through this section right here next to the front drive shaft, go over the fuel line, and then get your socket secured on that nut. And then once you have that, then loosen it. It is going to be very hard, and make sure you have the socket on there all the way. And then this one does ratchet, so make sure you have it on the right setting. And once you have it loosened, you can use your normal socket wrench and go ahead and remove it the rest of the way. Alright, so the main reason you would want to change your engine mounts is if you feel an excessive vibration going through the cabin, especially while you're sitting at idle. And if you turn your AC on, it usually gets worse. When you start driving, you won't feel that vibration. So this bolt is really stuck on there, probably because this car was originally in New Jersey or New York. So that's probably why there's probably a little bit of rust on there. But it is going to be a little hard because they are lock nuts. So just be ready for it. Alright, so on the passenger side, you have a little access point right here behind the wheel. Just go like this and get like a little swivel wrench. You could get a smaller version, and then you'll have enough access to loosen it out. Oh, this whole mount is broken. So you can see how badly this one rusted, and the whole threaded rod came out. Alright, so now we can go ahead and take off the nut from the bottom of the mount. This is a 16 as well. Now we'll take off the mount from the passenger side, two E10s. Now we're gonna go ahead and jack the engine up. And as you can see, this one is completely busted as well. Now let's pull this one off. This side is going to be a little bit harder. So what you can do is you can go ahead and put the driver's side mount back in, then move the whole jack over closer to the passenger side and just lift that side out. So when you're putting the mount back in, you want to make sure you look at the little dowel on the bottom and make sure it's sitting in the right spot. Alright, so I'm going to loosen the back subframe bolts just a little bit. That way I get a little bit more space to put the mount in. Alright, so it gives us some more space for that engine mount to go in. Loosen the front one as well. And then just pry between the subframe and this control arm bushing. That way you have just a little bit more space to go ahead and slide the mount in. And once you do that, you'll have more space to go ahead and pull off this passenger mount as well. Alright, so once you have the mount in, make sure the holes line up for the bolts, as well as the stud that goes into the engine mount arm lines up. Then you can go ahead and put all the subframe bolts back in. Once you have everything tightened down, go ahead and lower the pole jack or whatever you're using to set the engine back on the mounts. You want to go ahead and put the bolts in for the engine mount as well, only on the passenger side for right now. That way when you're lowering the engine, the mount doesn't move. Now we can go ahead and put the nuts on the top. Once again, these are 16mm nuts. Alright, so once you have the nuts tightened on the top, make sure you get them nice and tight. Go ahead and tighten the last nut on the bottom for the driver's side, and the 2 bolts on the passenger side. Double check all the subframe bolts, make sure everything's nice and tight. Go over everything, make sure the mounts are sitting right. The dowel for the passenger side is sitting in the right spot. So make sure everything is good. Once that's done, you're ready to go. So that's it for this DIY. Make sure to check out my t-shirts for sale at ShopLifeTV.com. Make sure to check out my vlog channel, Shop Life Vlogs. And if you want to stay up to date on the LS swap, go check out BMW Selena's channel. Thanks for watching, everybody.